Tonight on CFTK-TV News, the Northwest is offering a new way to learn about fungi. John Rustad made sure to reiterate a promise of his, and a report shows the dangers of being distracted while walking.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. With new mushrooms emerging almost everywhere you look in the Northwest these days, it's hard not to take interest in all of the different fascinating fungi. And as CFTK's Jaylene Matthews reports, there's a fun new way to learn more about them in the Northwest.
A new exhibit popped up in Kitimat just in time for foraging season.
I assume that the draw for it would be because there's such a mushroom foraging interest in this area. We're a very, humid, slightly tropical, I guess, region that has a lot of mushrooms growing in it. So there's that interest among lots of people. We're a very natural area, so exhibits that focus on and celebrate nature are just make sense to have them here.
The traveling exhibit comes from the Royal BC Museum and explores the science and practical uses of mushrooms today, along with spotlighting several few of the 3,400 known species in the province.
The exhibit is based on the Royal BC Museum's Mushrooms of British Columbia Handbook, which is an excellent resource for foragers.
There's been a number of guidebooks to mushrooms that the Royal BC Museum has published over the years. I think back since the 40s or so. But this is the most recent one, and it's full color and has all sorts of information on all the different mushrooms that can be found here. So the exhibit is kind of based off the book, using the book as inspiration. And we have multiple copies of the book in our gift shop for people to buy if they like.
The exhibit runs until November 23rd. Entry is free, but donations are accepted, and school groups are also invited. For CFTK News, I'm Jaylene Matthews.
A report that was recently released publicly by the Provincial Transportation Safety Board revealed their findings from an investigation into an incident that took place earlier in the year. Back on February 7th at around 7:45 in the morning, the Prince Rupert Airport saw a plane that was arriving from Nanaimo with about 38 total people on board overrun its runway after its hydraulic brake sets did not slow it down. Shutting down a pair of the plane's engines did not work either, and it led to the plane hitting a pair of runway end lights before sliding off of it entirely. Luckily, no one was seriously injured, and the plane only suffered some minor damage as well. The Transportation Safety Board concluded that the likely reason for the plane not stopping was because the tarmac was dealing with some slippery conditions. Onto the campaign trail, John Rustad reiterated his promise to redevelop Riverview Hospital and says that his party would change the way that BC deals with the drug crisis. For the most part, the campaign stopped what is planned until his handlers gave people something else to talk about. St. John Alexander has the details.
Well aware the drug crisis is a leading issue, John Rustad set out to convince voters he is the right man for the job, promising again to end decriminalization, but also safe supplies to addicts.
This whole issue of safe supply is not safe, it is dangerous. This should not be the approach that we take in British Columbia.
Insisting the BC NDP's policies have failed, the BC Conservative leader envisions a redeveloped Riverview that would be a leading center for mental health, cutting wait times for treatment, appointing an addiction specialist, and naming involuntary care legislation after Christian D'Souza, who died from illicit drug poisoning.
He was smart, he was kind, and he had so many dreams. He needed help, and it never came despite our desperate pleas for help.
This was unfolding as a poignant moment in their campaign. And then a handler told reporters that their questions to Rustad had to be about this announcement, or else.
Anyone who asks off-topic questions will be immediately cut off.
And they were true to their word when a reporter from the Times Colonist questioned the reasoning.
My question's limited by your moderator. I don't think that's a really good precedent. Can I ask
Excuse me.
debate?
With the severity of this event, we're going to be asking questions on topic, okay? We'll be going to the next person.
So I think there can be some discretion in how questions are taken and fielded by a leader, but they should, in my view, be speaking to a broad range of issues on a daily basis that concern voters.
The move caught the attention of the BC NDP, who were quick to accuse Rustad of avoiding questions and then criticized today's announcement at Riverview as having very few details and lacking new ideas.
If the party refuses to answer questions from journalists, if they refuse to recognize and take questions from some journalists, that can become the story, and their message of the day gets lost anyway.
Tonight we're going to watch the debate. We're going to do so with one empty chair.
The Conservatives, of course, are hoping their strategy paid off. St. John Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
Coming up next, a fire that ripped through 3 houses has left a lot of damage and uncertain futures in its wake. Welcome back. It may seem obvious to many of us, but new research out of UBC confirms something we should pay attention to. Distracted pedestrians put themselves in danger, and as Abigail Turner reports, being distracted can end up being deadly, with 70 people dying while walking on BC roads last year.
Sending a text or putting in your headphones, a familiar sight on sidewalks. But those distractions are leading to more close calls with vehicles, 45% more.
Nobody should be injured or killed on our roads.
It's one of the reasons why UBC researchers have been studying the effects of distracted pedestrians by using AI technology.
Changing behavior can be quite difficult, while in many cases changing the system itself is more cost effective.
Canada's research chair in transportation safety says AI could help create safer streets for pedestrians. He points to using the technology to determine the length of crosswalk signals or cell phone alerts for pedestrians in high traffic areas. But one advocate says the focus should instead be on the drivers.
Pedestrians outside cars are brutally aware of how risky it is to cross the road, how driver inattention has far more serious consequences than pedestrian inattention, and that's where our resources need to go.
One thing both experts agree on, the findings could be used to enhance safer infrastructure.
We need government to be putting resources into traffic calming infrastructure that slows driver speeds on roads, especially where there are vulnerable road users.
We can provide more visible crosswalks, and we can identify areas where we have a high percentage or occurrence of these near misses and maybe collisions.
To prevent both pedestrians and drivers from serious consequences. Abigail Turner, CTV News, Vancouver.
11 people are facing an uncertain future after flames ripped three homes in Strathcona. The fire department doesn't know how it was started, but it was a challenging battle for them. Crews spent hours on the scene trying to stop the flames. CTV's Ben Nesbitt spoke with a family that has lost everything that they own.
The massive flames visible from blocks away, with smoke soaring up into the night sky. At the scene in the 1000 block of East Pender, more than 50 members of Vancouver Fire Rescue Services worked quickly to try and put out the fire that tore through 3 homes. From high above, we see the extent of the damage. 11 people are now without a home, including Naomi Stinton and her family.
It was so fast. It was less than 10 minutes from being just the deck on fire to our house ablaze.
Stinton, her husband, and 2 young kids had just finished dinner when the fire broke out at around 8 o'clock. The 4 of them were able to escape safely, but all of their belongings are destroyed.
My husband didn't even have a shirt, no shoes. I had no shoes. I'd taken my son's Crocs. My son was barefoot, my daughter was barefoot, and that's what we have.
The fire department says it encountered a number of challenges during this response, including just how close these properties are together, overhanging trees, and a gas line was also broken after the fire started, while the cause remains under investigation.
We're already encountering very heavy flames, very heavy smoke, rapid fire progression that already occurred throughout the structures. So really it was about limiting what had already been damaged.
2 people were treated for smoke inhalation at the scene, but there were no major injuries. While they've lost everything, Stinton says they're grateful to be alive.
Where the fire tore through upstairs, it entered in my son's bedroom, and the windows of my daughter's bedroom were absolutely shattered. So if this had been 2 hours later, there'd be no interview right now.
The family did not have renter's insurance, so an online fundraiser has been started to help them get back on their feet, as the road to recovery will likely be a long one. Ben Nesbitt, CTV News, Vancouver.
Turning to tonight's weather, the north coast is likely to be hit with a chance of showers as well as a low of 7 degrees. The Terrace-Kitimat area should deal with a chance of showers too, while instead seeing a low of 4 degrees, and the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District will see their own chance of showers, but their low will drop to -6 degrees. On the north coast, the week for them will essentially only see lots of rain and clouds while seeing their high shift from 11 to 13 degrees. In the Terrace-Kitimat area, their upcoming week may get about a day of sun, although they should only see rain the rest of the time, while the high jumps from 9 to 14 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, the next week or so may also have a little sun interspersed with the constantly rainy and cloudy days, as the high moves from 9 to 15 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. On Highway 16, there is bridge maintenance, other maintenance, shoulder maintenance, utility work, construction work, and paving operations. Highway 37 has some utility work, roadside brushing, and slippery sections. There is some construction work, bridge maintenance, and paving operations on the Nishka Highway, and the Telegraph Creek Road has some slippery sections. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cams. Still to come is the story of an Albertan man putting a lot of work to make a dream of his come true. Welcome back. It was a solemn and emotional day in Israel as the country marked 1 year since Hamas terrorists savagely murdered 1,200 Israelis and took more than 200 people hostage. 100 of those are still believed to be in captivity. The brutal attack started a counteroffensive and a war. CTV's Heather Wright reports from Tel Aviv.
At 6:29 a.m., a DJ put on the last song that was played at the Nova Music Festival 1 year ago. Seconds later, it stops, marking the moment Hamas fighters stormed into Israel and began their rampage. Of the 1,200 people killed that day, authorities say 365 were killed here at a party for peace. Today, they were mourned and remembered.
This is where she was. This is where she was happy in the last her moments. It was here.
Memorials were held across Israel today, filled with grief as well as anger. Hundreds marched outside Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Jerusalem residence, many angry over the escalating conflict and worried about the fate of the hostages still being held in Gaza.
A nightmare. A nightmare that we are living it. Shiri's wife.
Alfrey Bibas's brother, sister-in-law Shiri, and nephews Ariel and Kafir Bibas were kidnapped on October 7th. The boys are the youngest held in Gaza. Hamas claims Shiri and her sons were killed. Israel refutes the claim. The family remains hopeful, but fearful.
I'm really worried that the focus is now up north and that they are being sacrificed over there or something.
The anniversary marks 12 months of profound grief and trauma in both Israel and Gaza, where the death toll is now more than 40,000, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry. While Hamas has been degraded, they have not been defeated. Several rockets were fired at Tel Aviv today. And as Israel conducts fresh operations in northern Gaza, people are once again being told to leave. We don't know where to go, Rawa Abu Jamia says. We couldn't find a safe place. Nowhere in Gaza is safe. Sarah Davies is with the International Committee of the Red Cross and is in Rafah, where thousands are living day by day in makeshift tents.
To be very honest, people here don't have the luxury of thinking about the future right now because they're surviving every hour or every day or every week.
Many Israelis, too, feel stuck on October 7th, 2023, unable to move forward, demanding an end to the conflict.
Not long after the anniversary of the attacks that Hamas executed on Israel passed by, Toronto's mayor got quite a bit of heat for missing out on an important event related to said anniversary.
2 days after the Toronto vigil that marked the one-year anniversary of the October 7th attacks in Israel, Mayor Olivia Chow was under fire for not showing up.
I regret that I missed the Jewish, the memorial, the anniversary.
Tens of thousands of Torontonians had gathered in North York for the solemn commemoration, represented by politicians from across the GTA. Chow blaming her absence on a miscommunication in her office.
My office did not did not get the email that was sent to us, and they went deep into looking through the IT, asking IT to dig things up. I don't know at this point. It doesn't matter. I wasn't there.
The organizers insist multiple email invitations were sent and say they were disappointed by her absence. Chow did not attend the 50,000-strong Walk with Israel in June or the raising of the Israeli flag at City Hall the month before that.
This was an event that saw thousands of Torontonians attend, politicians from all across the province. So surely there was an awareness in your office that went beyond a missed email from the organization behind the event.
Probably. Our office, as you know, was getting ready for council on Wednesday. We were stretched because this is council week.
Missing an email about a really important event seems like you have either real problems in your office, you aren't aware of the days of the week, or there's something more going on.
Leadership is about showing up. And, you know, we try and reiterate to the community that we're standing shoulder to shoulder with them, that they're not forgotten, that they're not alone. But on October 7th, they were alone because the mayor wasn't there. And I think she owes the Jewish community here in Toronto an apology.
The mayor stopping short of apologizing at the podium today when asked, but saying she would be saying sorry to leaders of the Jewish community.
We'll talk about how we would not miss each other again. And yes, I will apologize for not being able to make Monday evening's event.
Acknowledging the broader pain and anguish still felt in this city 1 year after the October 7th attacks, and saying hate has no place in Toronto.
The national flower of Israel. We asked young artists to create their own unique interpretation.
An Albertan man has always dreamt of owning a hovercraft one day, but he did not expect to actually end up making one by himself. But with some general know-how and a will to work, he spent about 1,800 hours over the span of a year in order to build one from scratch. CTV's Evan Kenny has that story.
Owning a hovercraft was a dream for Robert Timofeychuk. He first saw one on TV as a kid.
At that point, I was captivated. Like there's no question in your mind that you had to have one of those crafts.
Wanting a hovercraft is one thing, actually owning one is a different story.
But you don't go to the local, power sports dealer and say, I'd like to buy a hovercraft.
So this vice principal in Murnham, 2 hours east of Edmonton, decided to build his own. He says tinkering with machinery was just a part of life on the farm.
You're a little bit of an electrician, you're a bit of a carpenter, you're a bit of a welder, a bit of a plumber. You did your best to try to fix things. So we needed to make the rest of the machine.
Among his creations, this wood processor and a solar energy farm.
It's a very unconventional way of doing it, but it was just because I had spare parts. It's such an incredible experience to create something with your own hands, spend that amount of time, and actually have it work.
This is actually the second hovercraft he's built. The first one wouldn't even get off the ground.
That's life, you try some stuff. Most of the time it works out, and sometimes it doesn't, and you get knocked down and you pick yourself up.
Robert and his wife spent 1,800 hours building this amphibious vehicle. It has a cab from an old Jeep and a Toyota Celica engine that powers this homemade hovercraft to 60 kilometers per hour. It's also driving his theory, with hard work, anything is possible.
It's energy in and energy out, and if you apply your energy, you're going to get some good things out of it.
Evan Kenny, CTV News.
And now we turn our attention to the stock markets. The Canadian dollar is down 17.17 cents, the price of gold is down $9.40, oil is down 33 cents, natural gas is down 8 cents, aluminum is down $86.50, In Toronto, the TSX is up 152.39 points. The Venture Index is up 3.23. In New York, the Dow Jones is up 431.63 and Nasdaq is up 108.70. Still ahead, a woman got surprised by some invading forces near her home. Welcome back. A massive raccoon rampage was caught on camera as a Washington state woman got quite the surprise when more than 100 of the hungry critters swarmed her home in search of food. CNN's Patrick Cornell has that story and more.
Feast your eyes on the, well, hundreds of hangry raccoon eyes yearning for a feast. Police pulled up to a home in Washington state to find this trash panda party, or infestation, depending on your point of view. Deputies say the woman who lives at the house had been feeding a few random raccoons for decades, and word must have got out because recently they've been running amok, showing up at all hours hoping for a snack. The problem got so bad, the pests prevented the homeowner from getting inside her house, and she had to call 911 for help. Deputies say the creatures aren't committing any crimes, so Fish and Wildlife will have to handle the eviction, but neighbors are certainly ready for the paws and claws to get gone.
I do hope that somebody steps in and helps her, take care of this problem, and hopefully she'll quit doing it.
How about another animal in a place they just don't need to be? In Australia, a koala snuck up the stairs into a train station in Sydney. Video shows just how close this came to being a catastrophe, with the marsupial meandering along the side of the rails, perilously positioned on the platform. Trains in the area were warned to slow down just to be safe, because that mammal most certainly doesn't have the correct qualifications to traipse that close to the tracks. Get it? Qualifications? Okay, my bad. Moving on. Thankfully, the little guy got away, and after a short time, the creature clambered over the fence and headed off to a nearby national park. For Take a Look at This, I'm Patrick Cornell.
Western Forest Products is temporarily curtailing its lumber production in the province. The Vancouver-based company says it is reducing production from its BC sawmills by approximately 30 million board feet between now to December. Western says the curtailments are due to a combination of market challenges, including weaker lumber demand and higher U.S. softwood lumber duty rates. The company says all levels of government must work to create a policy environment that supports the forest industry, especially as American softwood duty rates are set to rise significantly next year. That is all of our news for now. From all of us here at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.